Welcome back to Real-ationship Goals, a podcast all about exploring the realities and complexities of healthy relationships. Real-ationship Goals is a project of the Prevention and Education team at the Advocacy Center for Crime Victims and Children in Waco, Texas. If you or someone you know has experienced sexual violence or harassment and is seeking support services or needs more information, links to resources and our hotline number can be found in the description. The views expressed in this podcast are those of the hosts and guests and do not necessarily reflect those of their organizations or affiliates. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Real-ationship Goals. We have another community partner episode today. We are your hosts. My name is Monica. I'm the Prevention Community Organizer, and I use they, she pronouns.
I am Meryl Onderegg. I am the Health Equity Programming Specialist, and I use she, her pronouns.
And today we have a very special guest, which is a community partner within the agency.
Yes.
Within the agency, Dr. Kerry Burkley. Please introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Reverend Dr. Kerry Burkley, and I'm excited to be here. I'm the Associate Director here at the Advocacy Center. Just pumped about hanging out with my friends from Prevention and Education. What is up? This is awesome.
Oh my gosh.
Awesome.
Love your energy already. Always a good time with Kerry. And Kerry, really we want to start off by talking about your experience in this realm of work. So what we've been doing this season is really focusing on mobilizing men and boys as allies in this work. But we've also wanted to expand that about people that we know that have been in this work professionally, but also you do so much out of it outside of the agency. So
Yes.
any relevant work.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had the blessed privilege of being here a member of this staff for 28 years. This is my 28th year, and I'm
Know that.
Yeah.
my first job out of college was working at the Advocacy Center, and I stayed. So I'm really excited about that work and really being on the front line of investigation of child sexual and physical abuse cases and working with our community partners to make sure that families and children get their resources. I also pastor a church, and I've been pastoring for 20 years, which is my ministry calling. And some people, I tell people the reason why I'm able to do, or we're able to do this for me personally, it's a calling. It's I come to work every day, and yielding to my relationship to God and say, where in this can I be useful to help individuals who have had some hurt or some trauma that happened to them. And so for the past 20 years, my church family, Great Ebenezer Baptist Church in Waco, have really put up with their pastor and all of his aunts and all of these responsibilities that we have through the Advocacy Center. And then about 14 years ago, I recently, it's not recently, it's 14 years ago, I had the fortune to teach 2 courses at Baylor. One on child abuse investigations, which is what we do here in multidisciplinary team approach. And then the other one is out of the research I've been doing on trauma, and particularly helping families or individuals help families who process trauma. So it's both, and so all of those capacities are what comprise me. And then I try not to dabble in too many board memberships because there's just not enough time.
Right. I was gonna say, I knew that you've been here 28 years. What department did you start in?
So I actually started in the education department. My first job was the education coordinator.
Because
Yes.
was it that you started Camp Careful?
Yes.
And I heard something about puppets.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was way, way ago. So I was the education coordinator. The young lady that was in a position that I'm in now left the agency to go pursue a PhD. And I was graduating, and was funny story if you got time. And besides, I'm a Baptist preacher, so I was going to have stories. If I talk too much, just tell me, hey, you're talking too much. But
You're good.
the church that is on the backside of Baylor, 7th and James, my cousin is the secretary there. She's the executive secretary, still there. She's been there over 40 years. And at the time, the pastor of the church, his wife was the executive director of the Advocacy Center.
Okay.
We were downtown by the river. And on a in a chance conversation, I'm coming through, it's approaching graduation. We were excited about, for me, I'm graduating my undergrad, and the pastor's wife, Pat Bailey, says, so what are you gonna do after this? What are you gonna say? Well, I need to find a job. I'm graduating, I need to find a job. And she says, hey, put in for it. Our education person that's going to pursue a PhD will interview and see how it goes. And here I am, 28 years
Yeah.
later, still here. So I did education for about 4 years,
Okay.
and then moved into the program director for the Children's Advocacy Center.
Okay. Wow. What a journey.
Yeah,
What a journey. Not
So
even just in the agency, but just like in life. Yes, go
Yes.
ahead.
So you went from education to being the director over there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'd always imagined you going into like the forensic interview role and then going up.
So so the role, the first program director you're looking at. I'm the first and only program director so far.
la-di-da.
Yeah, so it opened up, and that gave me an opportunity to do the leadership piece, but at the same time train as a forensic interviewer to do the backup for our main forensic interviewers. So I've
Okay,
been
I
backing
see.
up folks for 24
Yeah.
24 years.
So kind of yes, also
Yeah,
doing the forensic
kinda,
interview.
yes,
Okay.
yes,
So
yes,
you get
yes.
it.
You've really
Absolutely.
grown with the agency.
Yes.
Because I feel like I knew that it was here, and then prior to this, it was at Columbus, and
And then
that's
prior to that, where we started was downtown, where the health department is, right there off the river.
really,
We were in the building that's adjacent, runs parallel to the Brazos.
yeah.
That's where we were.
Okay, wow.
Probably in an office, probably no bigger than y'all's space in here, and we had a
Really?
staff that people had to share. I shared the office space with the shredder and the copier and the counselor. So we
Oh,
had a part-time
geez.
counselor, and so when she was counseling, I
You
couldn't
had to
be in
get
the
out.
office. And so much of my 4 years was spent on the road, going to schools in 6 counties.
That makes
Gotcha.
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that makes sense.
yeah,
Well, that's so awesome. So sorry to pivot,
yeah.
but as Monica was mentioning earlier, this season, we're really focusing on men as allies. And so for our community partners and agency partners, we really wanted to bring in men.
Okay.
And so I would love to know how you view men as allies, especially within the world of violence prevention.
Yeah, that's a very good question. In fact, when I hear the phrase "men as allies," I think of transformation.
Mhm.
And part of that view is that if we're going to be or create, I think, stronger communities where we have buy-in from our men and our boys, for that matter,
Mhm.
there has to be a transformation, not just in the way boys and men engage things, but also a transformation in self-perception.
Yeah.
And that's a part of it. And so, we're living in we see all around us just so many negative scripts that are given for men and boys across the board. And then when you get into the ethnic lines and you really get into cultural lines, you get
Right.
into some other scripts as well. And so, if we're going to be effective or need to be effective where we're needed right now, because we see it every day,
Yeah.
we're going to have a sense of transformation in how men see themselves, in the role that they can have in our community, and to be able to empower young men and young boys to reach better goals, and as far as engaging. And I believe that. And I can unpack that in so many ways.
Right. I was going to ask,
Yeah.
can you maybe give us a few ideas,
Absolutely.
like concrete ideas that you have for doing that?
Absolutely. I think for me personally, as a man of faith, then it has to do with understanding my relationship with my God. And for some people, that's a hard gap to breach, because many people don't have that relationship, or don't know, or maybe they don't believe. But I say that because then that motivates a higher sense of calling and purpose for me. Okay. And so that I'm living in the same world that we all see tragedy and trauma happening. And so where in all of that am I called to do something that's transformative, not just for the people that are engaged, but also transformative in response to my relationship to my God. I think time should be spent in our communities, really faith communities specifically, on looking at what that image looks like in relationship to God. And then also, really promoting social relevance. Okay. because we need a world where we need some more men
Hmm.
who are actively engaged in those areas where men have been absent,
Mhm.
single parent homes, men as mentors in our communities.
Mhm.
There's an absent presence of men in school districts,
Yeah.
and where there needs to be. These are the cultivating young minds, and either because of lack of training or apathy, they're not engaging on that regard. So I think those are areas where I think we can really press it. And because y'all have me on the show today, is because I want to make sure that it is said that particularly for men of color, I think the calling beyond everything that's happening should be impressed upon that, hey, this is essential
Hmm.
for our community and our generations to get strengthened when we have engagement or men as an ally, that I can lean on you, depend on you to help me through some tough times.
Right.
Yeah.
It makes me think, because I feel like you saying transformation within, ourselves, I feel like that has come up with our other guests who have come on to talk about mobilizing men and boys as allies. And it's almost like that switch has to happen.
Yeah.
And mentorship, of course, has come up a lot too. And it makes me think like, I feel like a lot of men had like maybe not mentors, but kind of, but with coaches. But so often some sports can get really violent and it might be encouraged in order to win and things like that. And I think it was the last community partner episode where we were talking about we have to be examples, or like men have to be examples for young boys. They can't do it by themselves and things of that sort. Which, all that to say,
But you raised something, and I want to
tell me.
because you're right. There are quite a bit of images and labels that are floating in our social realm that are attaching in negative ways to men and boys. Um, and so to piggyback on that, there a lot of my other research I've been doing for the past 5 years, but this research on there's a theory, self-determination theory. Maybe you've heard of it. It's DC and Ryan put it out in the early 70s, which is impactful to me in the work that I do because it really targets some areas that I think are components that would help men and boys be better. And that is understanding your autonomy, understanding your competency, and then how to work that autonomy and competency into something that's relatable
Mm,
to your surroundings. And I really harped on that in my research because if we are autonomous, which means not just standalone, not just different, but that we're choosing not to buy into the labels that are placed on us,
Mhm.
that we're choosing to not accept what people say, you know, because of past or
hmm.
poor choices or what have you, but in recognizing that in that autonomous ability, you can be able to be confident or self-aware of who you are, and then use that to be intentional about the work that we do, and then how that relates across the board in every aspect, whether it be family, on our work
Yeah.
situation, uh, you know, camaraderie with other men and or boys in the community or at school. How does that work? So it's not just a compact solution that is, cookie cutter for
Hmm.
situations, but that is unique to our experiences in the middle of what we're going through.
Yeah.
So when I hear what you said
Yeah.
about that, it's being aware of who we are and determined, so that in that there's something that I can do. Regardless of what I've been through, there's something I can do
Yeah.
to be significant in my world.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, before you move on, I don't know if you're gonna move on yet, but I wanted to ask, so our other guests, or at least one of the other guests that I was present for, he kind of mentioned like what was his turning point to that self-awareness and recognizing the violence in society and how he has, been perpetrating it or, benefiting from it and how he can then combat it. Do you have any idea? You might have like one single moment, or it might be a long string of moments, like what what changed it for you? What brought on that self-awareness for you?
Absolutely. That's a good question. So I'm the oldest of five children.
Oh my gosh.
And my parents,
Being the oldest is tough.
yeah, it is tough. It is
We're
tough.
all older siblings here.
Yeah, we're all older.
Oh,
Yeah.
good company today. Okay. And besides, the older siblings always got it on lockdown. We got it. But it's also the responsibility that is innate to us that we have to look out for a whole bunch of things. But one of the lessons that my parents, but my dad's a pastor, my mom, who instilled in us is that no matter what happens in your world around you, you make sure you look out for each other. Okay. And then the other part, because my mom was such a strong influence, she's the youngest of 21 children in her family.
Dang, she got my grandma beat.
Yeah.
My grandma has 9, but it was 11 because 2 of them passed.
Yeah.
She got the Duggars beat.
Yeah.
21 children. My grandparents had 21 children.
Wow.
Baby. But the one thing she instilled in us, particularly because there were 4 boys, and my younger sibling is my sister, and they instilled in us to make sure you respect women, to make sure that you don't take advantage of, to make sure you understand who you are, and and knowing who you are is whose you are. And growing up in a religious home, this is the context that you are. You need to live your life in accordance to what we believe scripturally. So when I hear you say, or ask a question about that turning point, for us, it was just hearing those messages. It was hearing them say, I know what the rest of the world is doing. I know what your friends may be doing, but you are to be autonomous, or you're to be different. You got to be different. And that turning point for me is, growing up and seeing in a world where there was violence, where there was, that was quite a bit going on. I started my ministry when I was in high school at age 15.
Oh, wow.
But a few years later, my senior year was when we had the event that happened outside of Waco at David Koresh, the compound out there. And just in that moment, all the messages that I heard and hearing about what our relationship with the Lord should be, and to see what was unfolding, that was traumatizing.
Yeah.
Not just because it was happening, but to think about all the women, children, and the men, that were lost in it. So, so then where do you lead your life from there?
Right.
What impactful things can you do? And so I lived on purpose, and that's always been my motivation. What is your purpose? What are you going to do? Yeah.
I think something that's so beautiful is when we've been asking these questions, I feel like even past guests have also brought in a woman figure who has been so strong in their life and very involved, also leading them. And I think so often it's like, what can men do and then what can women do? Very binary, but also like, how can we help each other?
Yeah.
And like really building that bridge, because something I always say that it's almost like a pet peeve of mine is it's so gendered in sexual violence world, in the sexual violence prevention world. But how can we build those gaps? Because we can't do this alone.
Absolutely.
And also so often it's almost like deemed as men will always be perpetrators and women will always be survivors, but that's not the truth. We know that there's other people under other labels and things of that sort, and there's also people who are missing in that conversation. But I just still think it's like it just speaks. It's like a theme, like a thread that I've heard in all the community partner ones this season is like there's been a woman helping them out too.
Absolutely.
And I think that's so beautiful. I don't know if you want to touch on this, and it's not on here on our questions, but I know that you also have sons.
Yes.
And I guess it kind of goes into the next question. The next question was, what do you think prevents boys and men from understanding their role in this work? But I'm wondering how fatherhood has been in that for you.
Yeah. That's a good question. So for me, I think one of the biggest challenges that men and boys find difficult to really engage in important work like this is understanding that there is or should be gender equity. I think that some of our men and boys have relegated certain aspects of society to women and have just abandoned that the fact that it takes both
Mm-hmm.
to be engaged in that. And so, and even also the mindset that some men believe that, oh, that's a problem that we're facing, but I don't have to be the one to fix it.
Mm,
I know that
mm-hmm.
someone else is gonna do it for me. And that's problematic on a whole bunch of levels because I think it detaches them from the emotional connections that are needed for building stronger
Mm-hmm.
community. And it is being checked out in that regard that we see the absence of men and boys or absence from engaging what is important because there's no emotional connection.
Yeah.
There's just nothing there. So for me, as a dad, because I have three amazing children. Two of them are sons. Our daughter is, she's the oldest, and then two amazing young men as sons. Is to instill in them all that it's it's critical for you to be uniquely you, but at the same time to understand that there is something you can contribute to the world around you that I think would be beneficial. And then building them up to that space to know we're building you up, supporting you. So at some point you're gonna fly on your own.
Yeah.
Okay. And I borrowed that from another piece of research that I did on Barbara Fredrickson has a broaden and build theory. Fascinating concept to this theory developed in the late 90s, right about the time I was coming out of college, is that her proponents were is that if you know, give people some positive emotions, positive surroundings, if you let them see things from a different positive perspective, okay, then eventually that in turn would raise their self-awareness of who they are.
Truly.
Mm-hmm.
And then not only will it do that, but it will build in them this motivation to want to engage in positive
Yeah.
activity. And so they're not dependent on you to build them up, but in turn that will in turn generate that positive motivation from the inside.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating research that is a good foundation for resilience, and that's what I
Which
think
is
is
so needed right
yeah.
now. Oh my God.
Okay, which is needed for a whole bunch of levels.
Mm-hmm.
But what does that look like in engaging men
Yeah.
and boys that despite what the social scripts have been, okay, that people have labeled or saying they're deadbeats or they're no goods,
Yeah.
they're perpetrators, which is not all, some of that, you mentioned earlier that the stats don't lie. I mean,
Right.
Right. Exactly.
men are the predominant ones who perpetrate these crimes against women and children. And so, but despite all of that label that society culture looks at, so how can we positively infuse you to know there's purpose? There's something that we need you for. We need that gap filled, and you're just the person to do it.
Yeah.
And I'll always harp on fathers because I am a dad and granddad too. Is that we need to really. I have two wonderful granddaughters.
Oh, I did not know that. Wow.
Yes, they are the sweet. I call them heaven sweet. Those
Oh.
Stop.
they
It's
are
so
adorable
cute.
and love their pops. I'm a pops.
Oh my
Oh.
gosh.
And I think dads in particularly are critical puzzle pieces to building children up. But to do that, we got to be present.
Right.
We got to be engaging and active and show our support and leading by example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I feel like so often people are like, oh, like single parent homes, but there are families that are still together,
Oh
but
yeah.
the parent may not be engaged. And I think that is also left out in the conversation.
It
So
is.
when you're talking about engaged, because you can also be separated or divorced, but still engaged.
Yeah, you can.
Um,
You can.
And
type of situation.
emotionally engaged.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
Yourself and those around you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And what you were talking about kind of made me think like you hold so many roles in your community where you can impact so many people. And this is really, really great talking about like prevention standpoint, like how can we
Mhm.
prevent the violence from happening in the first place? But I'm also curious, especially as your role as a faith leader, how do you hold people who have committed harm accountable?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Well, because I work here at the Advocacy Center,
Yes.
we still have to follow what the law
Right.
says. That is, and I think in this piece of the conversation, um, some people, miss get mixed up the terms forgiveness and forgetfulness.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
There's still a penalty to be paid if someone has done harm to someone. There's still you have to do that. And so in my work that I deal with, I'll give you this story. When I first became a pastor, one of the first questions they asked me at the pulpit supply committee or the pastor search committee, they asked me, "Tell us about where you work." And I told them, this is where I work. I
Yeah.
worked here for a few years before coming to apply at Greater Ebenezer, Waco, and I told them, so there, if you call me to be your pastor, there may be some Sundays to where cases may happen, or that I have to go attend to, and I make no apologies for that. I have to go do. This is my job, and fortunately, they were okay with that. And there have been some Sundays
Yeah.
to where late Saturday, early Saturday mornings, I've called out on cases in the past years, and then had to walk straight in from work to put on my robe to go preach on Sunday morning, or to leave a graveside service after committing, doing the last rites of that ceremony, and having to go straight to go to work to interview a kid that made an outcry of the weekend. So as a faith leader, I think it is still holding up, not just what we're, responsible, accountable as citizens, but also building in the value of what does that mean in right living. Okay. And so when there are individuals who are having anything to do with ministries in our church or what have you, we love you. We're grateful that you want to be here. But because it involves our children, we're going to have to make sure we do some background checks to make sure
Right.
that everything is, and that's in the up and up. That's just the way that it ought to be. We can love you and all that stuff, appreciate you, but we still have to check all of our balance, our boxes off.
Right.
And so for me, holding people accountable is knowing what to do if you suspect you need to report. And that's pretty hard for some people to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of dynamics in that. And I can imagine it can be like that. We hear it here with family members, reporting against family members or a loved one, but also as someone within a faith community, you're building these really, really close relationships. People are seeking your guidance during really vulnerable times. And so there's so many dynamics in that.
Absolutely.
I'm going to jump to the last question, which is if a young boy was listening right now, what's one message you would want him to walk away with?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think I would want that young person, young boy, to know that it is okay. Um, it is okay to understand that there's purpose for you in your life, but don't be scared of that purpose. This is just the moment for you to really reach your greatest potential and be significant, regardless of what the world is saying around us. I'd also like that young boy to know that it's okay to show your emotions. It's okay if you want to cry, you go ahead and cry, because those repression or those emotions really add to the disconnect emotionally. Where I think men and boys are already on a trajectory now that it's okay if you're not having a good day, if you just feel emotional, just let it all out. It's okay to be there. But I also would want him to know that he can be proud of who he is, regardless of where he comes from, regardless of his experience, just to be proud of who he is, and to know that being a man is not about power.
That's a word right there.
But it's about purpose. Being a man is not about power, but it's about purpose.
There you go.
And living your life in that mindset, I think, will drive them to do some incredible things.
That's beautiful. Like, I feel like that's probably going to be on the post that I make for this episode, is because that is just so beautiful. No, thank you. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you.
Really a rich conversation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yes.
these questions just guiding, like genuinely just guiding, like what it was meant to be is exactly what it was today. So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Anytime y'all want to have a chat, just come. I love to sit on the famous couch.
Oh, famous couch.
Well, every episode we have a relationship goal and a recommendation, and today Meryl's gonna share our relationship goal.
Yeah, so our relationship goal actually fits in perfectly to the advice that you just gave to young men. So, young men, as you just gave the advice, should be able to show their emotions and cry and let it all out. And my relationship goal is allowing them to have that space.
Yeah.
Giving them the grace and the tenderness that we afford women all the time, making sure that we also extend that to men.
Yeah.
All right. And then we always have a recommendation as well, but I would love if our special guests.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, go ahead.
Got one. And I think this fits in and with the y'all's relationship goal as
Yeah.
well. I think men and boys in general, but men particularly, need to be intentional about being vulnerable to when we have messed up or made a mistake, then it's okay to own it
Yes.
and to talk about it. Because this persona that, you have to be macho and you have to be this, make mistakes. No. And I think our boys would greatly benefit from that.
Yeah.
From a dad or a father figure or someone in their life to say, when I was young, I did some of the same things.
Yeah.
And if, what have you, I messed up, just to be vulnerable. And I think that really would tend to re-engage that reimagination
Yeah.
of connection.
I feel like so often, because I know I felt like this when I was younger, I was like, adults always have it figured out. And yeah, exactly. No.
Not even a little bit.
And I think one of the moments that I don't know when it happens, but I'm able to, like, when I make a mistake, I'm like, oh, silly girl. Or, like, I'm like, oh, well. But if it's something serious, I'm like, well, I know better for next time. But it's not like I punish myself or shame myself for it because it just happens. And it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
But man, I was so free after.
Oh, yeah.
Like, even something as so small, I'm just like, ah, so silly. And I'm just like, okay, whatever. Like, let's move on now. I know better. And life isn't so heavy. And I feel like sometimes when I talk to my sister, I know it's me and my sister, we're not men, but sometimes I tell her, I'm like, I want you to know that your experience feels like really, really big, but it's not unique. Other people have gone through it, and so have I.
Yeah.
Please talk with me,
Yeah.
Because in that moment, it's very easy to be like, I'm alone, no one will understand me. I'm like, I may not understand 100%, but the feeling, the bigger picture, it's not unique.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, being intentional, I think that's a really good word.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank y'all so much for tuning in for another episode of Real-ationship Goals. If you want to keep following us, you can follow us on Advocacy Waco on Facebook and Instagram. And if you're looking for more prevention-specific content, you can follow us on Instagram at ACCVC_prevention. But until next time, bye, you guys.
Bye. Thank y'all for having me.
Thanks so much for tuning in to Real-ationship Goals. This episode was produced by the Prevention and Education Department of the Advocacy Center for Crime Victims and Children in Waco, Texas. Interested in more content from P&E or the Advocacy Center? You can follow us on Instagram at ACCVC_prevention or on Instagram and Facebook at Advocacy Waco. Be sure to like this episode and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. Bye.